Hello everyone and welcome to my first ever Legend of Zelda theory video. Today, I want to talk about the 3 dragons that you can find around Hyrule in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Despite being in both of these games, little is known about them, so I want to give my own thoughts on their origins. Now, this video does contain spoilers from both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, so if you haven't played those games, you have been warned. With all that said though, let's get right into the video. As I stated in the intro of this video, very little is known about these 3 dragons. However, the Hyrule Compendium does give us some information about them, so let's go over that. In the Compendium, the dragons are described as spirits that have taken the form of giant dragons, and that each of them has served one of the springs since ancient times. Dinral, found around the Elden region, is a spirit of fire that serves and protects the Spring of Power. Naydra, found around the Lanayru region, is a spirit of ice that serves and protects the Spring of Wisdom. Farosh, found around the Faron region, is a spirit of lightning that serves and protects the Spring of Courage. In the modern day, few people have seen them, but traces of their presence have been noticed by certain NPCs. These traces can also be seen when Link approaches one of these dragons, as the area around them is affected by elemental energy. While this energy can harm Link, it has been said that the dragons bear no ill will towards people. The elemental energy is merely a manifestation of their power, and it is not intended to harm innocent people. Now, if Link is able to get close enough to one of the dragons, he can fire an arrow at them to obtain certain items. These attacks don't really harm the dragons, and they may allow the hero to take these items willingly. Of course, there is a limit for these items, as Link can only obtain one material from each dragon every 10 minutes of real time. With all that said though, that's pretty much everything that's confirmed about these dragons, which isn't much. Still, I do have some theories on their origins and their roles, so let's get into those. So far, I've only been focusing on 3 dragons, but in the era of the Wilds, there are actually a total of 5 elemental dragons. Throughout the story of Tears of the Kingdom, we see 2 dragons that weren't in Breath of the Wild, those being the Light Dragon and the Demon Dragon. Unlike Dinral, Naydra, and Farosh though, we know the origins of these 2 dragons. Sometime after Zelda was transported into the past, she swallowed her secret stone to become the Light Dragon and restore the Master Sword. Towards the end of the game, Ganondorf swallowed his secret stone to become the Demon Dragon as a final attempt to plunge the world into eternal night. So, if Zelda and Ganondorf underwent draconification due to swallowing a secret stone, could the same have happened with the other 3 dragons? In my opinion, I think this may be the case. Going back to the Hyrule Compendium, the Light Dragon is also described as a spirit, just like Dinral, Naydra, and Farosh. Still, this doesn't tell us who these dragons would have been in the past. For that, we have to take a closer look at their designs. If you look at the Light Dragon and the Demon Dragon and compare them to Zelda and Ganondorf, you will notice some similarities right away. Not only do the color schemes match, but their hair and ears in their dragon form reflect how they looked as people. With this information, if we take a look at Dinral, Naydra, and Farosh, we can see that all 3 of them have flowing white hair with matching accent colors, as well as very long ears that droop a little bit. Of course, these design traits heavily match the designs of the Zonai, especially King Rauru. So, I believe that Dinral, Naydra, and Farosh were all once Zonai who swallowed their secret stones to undergo draconification. It is said that the Zonai were descendants of the gods, so perhaps these 3 Zonai were tasked to protect the 3 springs of the Golden Goddesses, Din, Nehru, and Farore. They may have also been tasked to protect the pieces of the Triforce, as each spring corresponds to one part of the Triforce. In the past, something could have happened that made these 3 decide to go through draconification. It may have been a huge threat that required them to unlock more power and protect the Triforce from falling into evil hands. Perhaps this event could have led to the end of the original Kingdom of Hyrule, which is why Rauru and Sonia are the first rulers of Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom. This event could also be the reason why swallowing a secret stone is forbidden, as the remaining Zonai would have realized that draconification is irreversible. As such, the 3 Zonai who became dragons were destined to wander the skies for the rest of time. Now, I want to quickly mention the 3 armor sets based around these dragons: the Ember set, the Frostbite set, and the Charge set. While it is assumed that these armor sets were based on the 3 dragons, that isn't actually confirmed in-game. The description for each of these items states that they were used in ancient rituals and can boost attack in certain weather conditions, but they make no mention of the 3 dragons. So, instead of being based on the dragons, what if these armor sets were originally worn by those tasked to protect the 3 springs? If this is the case, it would add more evidence to the theory that the dragons were once Zonai who protected the 3 springs. These could have been the outfits they wore, and the ancient rituals mentioned in the description of these items could very well be referencing a draconification ritual. Despite appearing in both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, these 3 dragons haven't had much of a role outside of a few side quests. So, in this part of the video, I want to discuss some of my ideas on what roles these 3 could play in a future game revolving around them and the Triforce. To start off this section, I want to suggest the idea that the dragon plots in Tears of the Kingdom could be foreshadowing the plot of a future game in the series. After all, the game's logo has 2 dragons eating each other's tails, and the whole game focuses on loops, so it wouldn't be out of the question for them to plant ideas here that will be used later on. As I said, the plot of this future game would focus on Dinral, Naydra, and Farosh, while also reintroducing the Triforce as a main part of the story. Despite being a major part of Zelda lore, the Triforce itself didn't get a mention in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom and was only shown as a symbol. In this future game, we could be given various tasks involving the 3 dragons that eventually lead to us obtaining the complete Triforce. Additionally, in a similar way to the memories of the 2 recent games, we could see flashbacks that tell us more about the dragons as Zonai, and perhaps even the 3 golden goddesses. Now, as for when in the timeline this game would take place, I think it would definitely be after Tears of the Kingdom. However, I'm not certain whether this will focus on the same Link in Zelda we've seen recently, or a completely new Link in Zelda further in the future. It would be nice to make the Wild games a trilogy, but Hyrule would need to be expanded once again for this to work, and it may be difficult to make it all fit nicely. Instead of that, this game could take place sometime after the Link and Zelda of the Wild have rebuilt Hyrule Kingdom and made it prosperous again. We could then be introduced to a new Link and Zelda with a new conflict to overcome. Whatever the case ends up being, we could see a lot of innovation in a game like this. In Breath of the Wild, we had champion abilities, and in Tears of the Kingdom, we had the sages. So, what could we have in this game? Personally, I think it would be really cool if we got new abilities from the dragons. After reaching a certain point in their storylines, they could allow us to borrow some of their power. Through more trials, we could also upgrade these abilities. Additionally, I would love it if we had a main antagonist that we meet in multiple places in the game instead of just at the end. I really liked how they did the Master Koga storyline in Tears of the Kingdom, and I think something like that could work well here too. Now, for the Triforce, I think it would be an interesting twist if the 3 pieces went to the dragons instead of Link, Zelda, and Ganon. We would then have to gain the assistance of the dragons to defeat the antagonist, which would tie back to the dragon abilities. Perhaps the final battle can involve all 3 dragons coming together to use the power of the Triforce against the antagonist, and then we could use its power to wish them to become Zonai once again. In any case, I would really love the dragons to have a bigger role in a future game at some point. There is so much we don't know about them, and they have so much potential that we just haven't seen yet. The ideas I mentioned today are just the tip of the iceberg for what's possible, and if we get something like this, it's sure to be amazing. Anyways, that's pretty much it for my thoughts on the 3 dragons and how they could have a bigger role in the future. This is the first Zelda video I've done on this channel, so if you want to see more, let me know. I really enjoyed making this video and researching the dragons, so I would love to make more. I'd also love to hear what ideas you all have for the 3 dragons in the comments below as well. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Sources and further readings are also in the description if you want to check them out. I hope you all have an amazing day, and I'll see you all in the next video.